The anime opens inside a dark dungeon where a lone adventurer is busy slaughtering horned bunnies that look like unicorns but behave more like nightmares. While the concept sounds ridiculous, it becomes immediately clear that these creatures are anything but cute. Oren cuts through several of them with practiced ease, quietly wondering how his sword skills have remained so sharp despite not fighting seriously for quite some time. The bunny massacre barely has time to settle before a group of goblins storms in, eager to volunteer themselves for defeat. Rather than relying solely on raw swordplay, Oren enhances himself with support magic, dramatically boosting his attack power. The effect allows him to tear through multiple goblins at once, proving that versatility can be just as lethal as specialization. Unfortunately, the magic lasts only 3 minutes, forcing Oren to recast it immediately once it wears off. Missing that window during an intense battle would be less oops and more fatal mistake. After what could generously be called a productive day at work, slaying monsters for a living, Oren returns to the hero's party mansion, expecting recognition or at least a pat on the back. Instead, he receives something far less pleasant. His childhood friends, now his teammates, inform him that he is being dismissed from the party entirely. The promotion he had unknowingly hoped for turns into a spectacular demotion straight out the door. Naturally, Oren argues his case, pointing out that Oliver's decision-making skills leave much to be desired. Oliver, however, remains unmoved. According to him, Oren is talented at everything but exceptional at nothing. Every member of the hero's party specializes in a single role, attack, defense, or support, and they no longer need a jack-of-all-trades who can do a bit of everything. What they want is a dedicated enchanter capable of delivering overwhelming support magic. Oren had been filling that role out of necessity, not preference, simply because no one else in the clan could. That temporary solution, Oliver explains, has reached its expiration date. To make matters worse, Oliver drops the final blow. The clan already has a new enchanter lined up, and the group has collectively decided that Oren's flexibility is more of a liability than an asset. With nothing left to argue, Oren thanks the clan for their time together and leaves the office without another word. His blank expression speaks louder than any outburst ever could. To vent the frustration of betrayal, Oren does what he knows best. He dives back into dungeon hunting. Though the wound left by his former friends is still fresh, it fuels a new resolve rather than breaking him. Instead of remaining a jack of all trades, he decides to aim higher and become a master of all trades. The idea sounds impossible, but Oren knows his own limits, and more importantly, his potential. He is certain the hero's party made a mistake by letting him go. During a solo raid in a new dungeon, Oren encounters a group of adventurers fleeing in panic. They explain that they narrowly escaped a horde of demons, but abandoned one of their allies in the process. This revelation clashes violently with Oren's sense of justice, combined with the bitterness of his recent betrayal. It ignites a dangerous amount of rage. Without hesitation, he demands to know where they left their companion, and immediately heads deeper into the dungeon. There, he finds a young girl trapped and surrounded by monsters twice her size, each one far stronger than she is. She maintains a defensive spell, fully aware that both her strength and the barrier have limits. As the shield begins to falter, she calls out desperately for her sister, tears streaming down her face. Her answer does not come from her sister, but from Oren. He cuts through the demons with terrifying precision, acknowledging that enemies of this caliber would normally overwhelm most dungeon raiders. The girl watches in awe as Oren seamlessly combines expert swordsmanship with self-cast support magic, something she has never seen anyone do so effectively. By the time the fight ends, her fear has been completely replaced by admiration, grateful beyond words. The girl introduces herself as Sophia Claudel and offers to repay Oren by treating him to dinner. Initially, he declines in classic shy protagonist fashion, but Sophia's charm proves far too persuasive. They head to a cozy restaurant, where Sophia's older sister soon joins them. The sister, Selma, takes one look at the scene and immediately misunderstands everything. With the reasoning skills of an excited child, she assumes her little sister has brought Oren along on a date. After several painfully awkward exchanges, the misunderstanding is finally cleared up. Sophia explains what happened, and Selma becomes deeply indebted to Oren for saving her sister. Oren, however, reacts very differently. Selma is no ordinary woman. She is a powerful enchantress and the very person who influenced Oliver's belief that the hero's party needed stronger, more specialized support. She was the one who promoted rigid dungeon roles, swordsmen, defenders, and dedicated enchanters. That system revolutionized dungeon raiding, but it also pushed adaptable fighters like Oren out of demand. Ironically, the person responsible for reshaping modern dungeon teams is now sitting right in front of him. Despite this, Oren feels no resentment. After speaking with Selma, he recognizes her as someone who genuinely saved lives by improving how dungeon raids operate, not as someone who stole his place. That realization says a great deal about a character. Selma, in turn, sees potential in Oren. She does not judge him for being dismissed from a hero's party, and instead recognizes his rare versatility. She invites him to assist the Night Sky Silver Rabbits, one of the most prestigious clans in the country, for a single job. Though still cautious after his recent betrayal, Oren accepts, reassured by the fact that he is not officially joining, just helping out. Later, Oren visits a familiar shop owned by an elderly merchant preparing to close for the day. The man allows him to stay, grateful for Oren's longtime patronage during his days with the hero's party. Oren admits that he will no longer be as valuable a customer now that he has lost his status. The old man simply reminds him that status never mattered. What mattered was that Oren was the same person who had walked into the shop for the first time all those years ago. That reminder gives Oren a renewed sense of hope, and with it, the resolve to move forward into the next chapter of his life. The next episode opens with Oren meeting the leader of the Night Sky Silver Rabbits, where he is briefed on an upcoming expedition. The plan involves pushing down a dungeon level 51 with a massive party that includes an unusually high number of rookies. While experienced members are supposed to provide support, the explanation does little to ease Oren's concerns. Oren is known for his ability to read between the lines, and in this case, the lines might as well be glowing red. Sending rookies that deep into a dungeon, even with veterans backing them up, sounds less like a training mission and more like a pre-written incident report. The situation becomes even more suspicious when he learns how generous the pay is. His instincts are practically screaming that something is wrong, but at this stage in his life, things have already gone so badly that he figures they cannot realistically get much worse. With that grim optimism, he agrees to join the expedition under his new clan. Unbeknownst to Oren, Selma has already spoken with the Silver Rabbit leader beforehand and informed him that Oren has been cast aside by his previous party. She makes it clear what she thinks of that decision. In her view, the hero clan must have been severely impaired to consider someone like Oren a liability. Selma explains that she understands Oren's abilities better than most. While his support magic may be slightly below average in raw power, his casting speed more than compensates for it. On top of that, his instincts and ability to assess situations instantly are exceptional. The fact that many of the spells he uses are entirely his own creations only further proves his talent. Selma argues that people like Oren are easily overlooked by fools, but their true value is obvious to anyone with real intelligence. She compares him to a diamond placed in the hand of a child, pointing out that as someone that immature, a priceless gem and a random rock hold the same value. Vince Briers agrees with her assessment and adds that the hero clan is likely in for a rude awakening when they finally realize how badly they misjudged their own strength. The following day arrives, and Selma is visibly pleased to see Oren join the expedition. She gathers a large group of rookies and delivers a rousing speech meant to boost morale, though her method is, at best, questionable. She announces that Oren, formerly of a hero clan, will be accompanying them and casually mentions that he has reached dungeon level 94. The rookies immediately explode with excitement. Oren, however, is far less enthusiastic. He confronts Selma and points out that the claim is misleading, since he did not reach that depth on his own. He also makes it clear that the last thing he wants is to be publicly associated with the hero clan. Selma, being a seasoned leader, counters that maintaining rookie morale is more important than strict honesty. She explains that a slightly bent truth increases confidence, which in turn increases the odds of mission success, making everyone's life easier in the process. Oren finds himself unable to produce a convincing counterargument, and by then, the damage is already done. He is ultimately assigned to a team of 3 rookies for the expedition. The trio immediately declare themselves the best rookies in the entire clan and confidently announce their grand ambitions. From Oren's perspective as a veteran, the only conclusion he can reach is that they are suffering from a severe case of overconfidence. The team leader is a young man named Logan Hayward, followed by the energetic Caroline, and finally the shy but familiar Sophia. During the expedition, the first monsters they encounter are a pair of oversized wolves, which promptly blunder into one of Oren's spell traps. How none of the rookies detect the wolves beforehand remains a mystery, rivaling the Bermuda Triangle, especially given that they are supposedly trained for exactly this scenario. As they continue through the dungeon, the difficulty steadily increases, forcing the rookies to reveal their abilities. While all 3 prove capable, their flaws quickly become apparent. Logan, in particular, behaves less like a commanding leader and more like a stressed-out child venting his frustrations whenever things go wrong. Eventually, the party reaches their objective for the day, and everyone returns safely. The next morning, Oren wakes up only to discover that his former party has metaphorically shoved yet another middle finger in his direction. The hero clan has publicly announced that they have acquired a new enchanter and have officially parted ways with Oren. The announcement feels less like a professional separation and more like a public execution of his reputation. Needing to clear his head, Oren heads out and unexpectedly encounters another familiar face. Luna. She attempts to convince him to return to the party, insisting that not everyone agreed with how things were handled. Oren refuses, explaining that his former teammates did not simply let him go, they humiliated him. While Luna may be one of the few good things about the clan, one person alone cannot overturn the will of the entire group. With that, Oren parts ways with her as well. The next episode opens with Oren making his way toward the Night Sky Silver Rabbit's expedition site, his mood noticeably somber. His thoughts are consumed by the same fear that has haunted him since morning. How his peers and the rookies would now perceive him after the explosive article that dominated the front page. Until yesterday, he had managed to keep the truth buried, but now the entire world knew. The report revealed that he had not left his previous party by choice. He had been expelled. Worse still, it openly declared that his banishment was due to his weakness. Oren fully expects the rookies of the Night Sky Silver Rabbits to regard him with suspicion and doubt. When he finally arrives and greets them with a strained smile, his fears are quickly confirmed. The rookies return his greeting with far less enthusiasm than before. Even the most oblivious observer could tell that they had learned the truth overnight and no longer looked up to him as they once had. The tension in the air is unmistakable. Though the rookies have lost faith in him, their respect for hierarchy keeps them from voicing their doubts openly. The atmosphere shifts when Selma arrives. Without hesitation, she offers a public apology to Oren. She explains that she had previously used his former party affiliation to bolster the rookie's morale, only for the news of his banishment to completely undermine that effort. Oren responds calmly, telling Selma to lift her head as she always does. He insists that she has nothing to apologize for. At that moment, one of the members of the Night Sky Silver Rabbit speaks up, pointing out that the reason behind Oren's expulsion is ultimately irrelevant. What truly matters, they argue, is that Oren has experience reaching as deep as Dungeon Level 94. That alone makes him an invaluable asset. His record proves that he is more than capable of guiding a group of rookies safely to Level 51. These words gradually restore the shaken morale of both his peers and the rookies who have been quietly harboring doubts about his ability. Soon after, the group prepares to enter the dungeon. Oren is assigned to lead the same rookies he had been paired with the previous day. Before moving out, he breaks the ice by apologizing for not being honest about his expulsion from his former party. Caroline and Sophia respond with understanding, far more forgiving than Logan, the youngest among them. Logan bluntly asks whether the newspaper's claims are true. Oren admits that, unfortunately, most of what was written is accurate. He acknowledges that he was deemed too weak for his previous party, and does not deny it. Logan falls silent, inwardly scolding himself for his own naivete. Just a day ago, he had been eager and excited to be led by Oren. Now, he feels foolish for having admired him so readily. Sophia, however, reacts differently. Having once been saved by Oren, she openly dismisses the newspaper's account as a distortion of the truth. She states firmly that she has witnessed Oren's abilities firsthand and believes he is anything but weak. Her words strike a chord with him, restoring the confidence he needs. Reinvigorated, Oren takes charge, and with renewed resolve, he leads the team into the dungeon as they begin their exploration of the lower floors. With Oren's extensive experience guiding them and the natural talent of Logan, Sophia, and Caroline supporting him, the four advance through the dungeon with remarkable efficiency. Floor after floor falls behind them with little resistance, and before long they reach level 31. Oren, keenly aware of the rookie's strengths and limitations, recognizes that from this point onward the dangers will escalate. He assumes full responsibility for the group's safety and informs them that he will be issuing commands from now on, relieving Logan of his role as acting leader. Their first encounter with orcs at this depth proves more challenging than expected. As anticipated, Caroline charges forward to draw the enemy's attention. Oren immediately instructs Logan to reinforce her with enhancement magic, allowing her to perform her role as a defender more effectively. Logan is not particularly impressed by these tactics. To him, the orders seem obvious, something anyone could have come up with under the circumstances. He privately concludes that perhaps the legendary Oren is not as exceptional as his reputation suggests, and that his banishment from a hero's party may have been justified. That assumption, however, does not last long. Mid-battle, Logan notices that Sophia has stopped moving as decisively as she usually does. Drawing on his own intuition, he quickly connects her hesitation to the recent trauma she suffered when she nearly lost her life to orcs. For a brief moment, Logan wonders whether Oren will fail to notice and whether he himself will need to intervene. Instead, Oren does something entirely unexpected. Rather than strengthening an ally, Oren casts a debuff directly onto the orc before them, weakening its abilities. Logan has never witnessed such magic use so effortlessly. Before anyone can react, Oren moves calmly to Sophia's side and reassures her, reminding her that this time she is not alone. He tells her that her friends are fighting alongside her and that the orcs pose no real threat. Those words pull Sophia out of her frozen state. Regaining her composure, she launches her trump card, Fire Javelin, obliterating the orc in a single strike. Logan can only stare in stunned silence. With Oren's precise support magic, the remaining orcs fall with surprising ease, and the party continues deeper into the dungeon. Upon reaching floor 35, Logan experiences genuine fear for the first time when they encounter a death tarantula, a massive, spider-like monster. He knows all too well that neither he, Caroline, nor Sophia could defeat such a creature on their own. Even now, he remains skeptical of Oren's true ability. That skepticism fades quickly. Oren issues flawless commands, positioning Logan safely in the rear while instructing him to grant Caroline an agility buff to help her evade the spider's attacks. He then orders a magic enhancement for Sophia, allowing her to sever the monster's legs with Arrow Cutter. The rookies believe the battle is over, but Oren alone remains vigilant, anticipating the creature's resilience. He orders additional buffs for Caroline just moments before the tarantula ensnares her in its web. When Logan's strength enhancement proves insufficient to free her, Oren intervenes directly, casting a rare sharpness enchantment on Caroline's blade. The enhanced weapon allows her to escape, and under Oren's continued direction, Sophia finishes the fight by crushing the monster with a massive rock spell. With the death tarantula defeated, the expedition for the day comes to an end. Later, the three rookies gather to discuss Oren's performance, their admiration unmistakable. They marvel at the sharpness enchantment he used, an advanced buff that enhances the weapon itself rather than the wielder, a technique rarely seen even among skilled enchanters. Logan also notes how astonishing Oren's debuff magic was, remarking that such spells are exceedingly rare and that even Selma uses them sparingly. Yet Oren cast them without effort. Sophia adds that when Oren once rescued her, his swordsmanship was just as impressive, proving that his talents extend far beyond support magic alone. By the end of their conversation, Logan's doubts about Oren have completely vanished. Elsewhere, Oren shares dinner with several members of the Night Sky Silver Rabbits. As they talk, he reveals his true ambition, to become a swordsman who can wield magic independently. He explains that in his previous team, the lack of a dedicated enchanter forced him into the role for the sake of his comrades. Now, he dreams of becoming a self-sufficient magic swordsman, capable of exploring the lower levels alone. He also recounts the story of his grandfather, a legendary swordsman who once slew a monstrous creature single-handedly with nothing but a blade. His new companions listen in awe, holding Oren in the highest regard. Meanwhile, Caroline and Sophia bathe together, reflecting on the fact that the following day will mark the final stage of the expedition, and their inevitable separation from Oren. Caroline suggests that Sophia try to convince him to stay. With the right words, she believes there may still be hope for Oren to become the newest and most valuable member of the Night Sky Silver Rabbits. The fourth episode opens with Oren making his way toward the southern dungeon site to begin the expedition with the Night Sky Silver Rabbits. This marks his final day with the party, as his contract with them was limited to just 3 days. As he arrives, he reunites with the 3 disciples who have accompanied him for the past 2 days, and who will remain at his side for this last mission as well. All 3 appear energetic and eager, brimming with confidence as they prepare to challenge the dungeon's lower floors. Their enthusiasm clearly stems from their absolute trust in Oren's abilities. Caroline openly remarks that the 3 of them would like to receive a gift if they successfully clear the lower floors by the end of the day. Sophia, however, has only one wish in mind. More than any material reward, she wants Oren to become a permanent member of the Night Sky Silver Rabbits. Before she can gather the courage to express her feelings, Selma calls out to Oren from a distance. He steps away at once, apologizing for the abrupt interruption and explaining that he must respond, as Selma would not call him without a good reason. As he heads toward her, Oren overhears a group of rookie adventurers whispering that the heroes' party will also be raiding the dungeon today, accompanied by their new enchanter. According to rumors, they plan to begin their expedition on a floor as deep as the 92nd. The news strikes Oren as illogical. From his perspective, introducing a new member should warrant starting at a much safer level rather than plunging straight into the dungeon's inner depths. After a brief moment of consideration, he dismisses the thought and continues on his way, reminding himself that the hero's party is no longer his concern. Meanwhile, on that same day, the hero's party is already far within the dungeon, accompanied by their newly recruited and supposedly powerful enchanter, Philly Carpenter. Their leader, Oliver, raises the party's spirits by declaring that they will conquer the dungeon in no time now that Oren is no longer holding them back. He further reassures them that, with such a formidable enchanter now on their side, victory is all but guaranteed. The scene shifts back to 2 days earlier, to the moment when the new enchanter, Philly, is introduced into the den of the hero's party. To celebrate the addition of what Oliver proudly calls a powerful new member, he hosts a lavish feast. With the exception of Oren, only one person is missing from the gathering: Luna, the sole member of the party who had consistently valued Oren's contributions. Throughout the feast, the conversation revolves around a single topic. The party repeatedly claims that their true potential had long been suppressed by Oren, whom they now dismiss as nothing more than dead weight. With Philly now on their side, they confidently declare that nothing will stand in their way as they prepare to clear the Southern Gate dungeon. They praise Philly's extensive experience, emphasizing her record of reaching the 100th floor of the Western Dungeon as proof of their assured success. The celebration is abruptly interrupted when Luna rushes into the den, clearly distressed. She demands to know what is happening and why Orin is now working with the Night Sky's Silver Rabbits. Her words leave the room in stunned silence. The idea that a supposedly weakened channel like Orin could be recruited so easily by such a renowned party baffles them. Luna immediately voices her objections, questioning what could have happened while she was away from town. Anelli hastily fabricates a story, claiming that Orin chose to leave the party of his own accord. This explanation leaves Luna to briefly wonder if Orin had simply given up on them. Derek, the party's defender, is far more blunt. He states that Orin was deemed too weak to remain a member of the Heroes Party and explains that Oliver and the others decided to cut him loose if they were ever to clear the deeper levels of the Southern Dungeon. With everyone present, Oliver seizes the opportunity to reveal his plan. Now that they have a new enchanter, he intends to begin their next expedition on the 92nd floor to test their teamwork. Luna strongly objects, stating that she has no desire to die and that starting at such a deep level is reckless. Despite her protests, Oliver eventually persuades her to go along with the plan. The scene then returns to present, where the hero's party is locked in combat with a massive, elephant-like monster deep within the dungeon. Oliver blocks one of its attacks and charges forward with all his strength, only to find that his blow has almost no effect. Confused, he wonders why his body feels so weak. When the enchantment buff provided by Philly fades, his limbs grow unbearably heavy, leaving him barely able to stand. This is an entirely new and unsettling experience for him. Oliver demands an explanation from Philly, asking why her buffs keep wearing off and leaving them weaker instead of stronger. Philly struggles to answer and admits that she has not yet figured out how the party fights as a unit. Oliver finds this unacceptable, as he is unaccustomed to such performance from an enchanter. He recalls how Orin had always been quick to read his allies' attack patterns and devise precise countermeasures without being asked. Meanwhile, Derek blocks another incoming strike, only for the blow to be deflected toward Anelli. He is shocked at how difficult it is to defend against such a basic attack. Anelli fires a spell at the monster, but the damage is negligible, no more effective than tossing popcorn at a healthy adult. Frustrated, Oliver orders her to stop holding back and attack with the power she normally displays. Anelli, however, admits that she cannot understand what is wrong with her magic. Growing desperate, Oliver asks Philly to reapply her buff to Anelli, which she does. Even so, Anelli's next attack remains just as weak and ineffective. Oliver then tells Philly to read the flow of battle and determine their next move, only for her to reply that she is unable to do so. Oliver is taken aback, believing that reading the battlefield is an enchanter's responsibility. In reality, it had never been Philly's role at all. Orin had been performing that function for the team all along. Without realizing it, the party had become completely dependent on him. As the fight drags on, Oliver still cannot explain his own weakness. By all logic, the support magic cast by Philly should have been far stronger than Orin's. Yet, faced with the harsh reality of battle, the difference between theory and experience becomes painfully clear. Luna is the first to fully grasp what is truly happening to the party. Just as she is about to explain the reason behind their sudden weakness, an ominous presence descends upon the battlefield. Without warning, the Black Dragon appears. At this point, Oliver completely loses his composure. Everything rapidly begins to spiral out of control. The Black Dragon does not leave the boss area. Yet, for reasons unknown, it casually approaches the party as if merely stretching its wings. A faint sense of heroism still lingers within the group. After all, they had defeated this very dragon once before, even when the odds were stacked against them. However, that victory had been achieved with Orin at their side. Still refusing to acknowledge the significance of Orin's role, the party chooses to confront the Black Dragon once more, this time relying on their new enchantress. Before long, it becomes painfully clear that this was a fatal miscalculation and all hope quickly fades. Realizing they stand no chance, the party hastily devises an escape plan. Luna activates a rare artifact capable of transporting all party members to an upper floor of the dungeon, although doing so would force them to face a different boss. It is far preferable to certain death at the hands of the Black Dragon. A portal opens, but the group hesitates for too long. Seizing the opportunity, the dragon spreads its wings and enters the portal before any of them can react. Derek is the only one momentarily relieved, believing that they are now safe. Luna immediately shatters that illusion, pointing out that the Black Dragon has been transported to a floor typically occupied by weak bosses. This means that countless adventurers currently on that level are now in mortal danger. After taking the time to heal her allies, Luna begins to explain the true reason behind their current struggles as they move to intercept the dragon and save the other adventurers. First, she explains that Orin was a master strategist capable of formulating flawless battle plans in mere moments. Second, despite the apparent weakness of his enchantment magic, Auron had developed several additional forms of magic that had been supporting the party all along without their awareness. Luna gives a clear example, stating that one of Auron's spells affected weapons and equipment rather than people. This meant that even when standard buffs expired, their swords and shields remained unnaturally light, preventing the crushing fatigue they were now experiencing. As a result, the team had never gradually weakened during prolonged battles. Furthermore, Auron had been exceptionally skilled at compensating for allies who possessed resistance to buff magic. Oliver, in particular, could not be enhanced for more than a minute by conventional means. Auron had countered this limitation through refined techniques and deep understanding rather than raw spell power. Luna then reveals Auron's greatest secret. He had created an original spell capable of increasing a person's offensive potency by more than 50 times. The revelation leaves the entire party in disbelief. Such magic was unheard of. She explains that Auron had been applying the spell during Oliver's and Anelli's strongest attacks, which was why their blows had once seemed overwhelmingly powerful. Oliver had believed those feats were achieved through his own strength, merely supported by Auron's standard buffs. The truth, however, is far more sobering. Auron himself had been the true source of their power all along. As the party advances to rescue the other adventurers, Oliver is weighed down by guilt for the chaos he has caused. Even so, his pride still overpowers his reason. He refuses to accept that Auron had been the foundation of their success from the very beginning. Instead, he silently vows to defeat the Black Dragon on his own, determined to prove that he does not need Auron's help, no matter the cost. The 5th episode opens with Auron briefing the rookies assigned to him on the objective of the day's dungeon hunt. He explains that their goal is to advance steadily until they reach level 51, at which point they are to end the run. Once they reach that level, they will activate their magic teleportation crystals and return safely outside the dungeon. Auron delivers these instructions with unwavering confidence, projecting the image of a leader capable of handling anything the dungeon might throw at them. Beneath a composed exterior, however, his resolve is not entirely steady. Auron is fully aware of his own abilities, and is certain that facing level 51 demons will pose little challenge. Commanding the rookies and coordinating their movements should not be a problem either, as they are all capable in their own right. Yet, despite every logical factor pointing toward a successful outcome, he cannot shake the lingering sense that something will go wrong. It feels as though the dungeon itself is exuding an ominous presence, one that only he seems able to perceive. He is pulled back to reality when Caroline asks what she can do to improve as a warrior inside the dungeon. Auron advises her to hold back more often, reminding her that, as a defender, she should not be rushing headlong into battle. He explains that she tends to act too independently and needs to start thinking as part of a team rather than as a lone fighter. Logan agrees with Auron's assessment and adds that Albert, one of the most respected members of the Night Sky Silver Rabbits, had always emphasized teamwork above all else. Caroline acknowledges that a defender is supposed to stay back, but she insists that she rushes forward only to protect her comrades by keeping monsters at a distance from her teammates. She adds, with a dull expression, that Albert died while defending a defender, when it should have been the other way around. The look on her face convinces Auron that she has touched upon a painful memory from her past. Though curiosity stirs within him, he understands that it is not his place to pry into her private life. Instead, he simply tells her that they will all need her today. The reassurance lifts her spirits. Sophia and Logan then ask what they should focus on to become stronger. Auron responds with a detailed and critical analysis of their strengths and weaknesses, offering guidance that proves genuinely helpful to both of them. Their discussion is interrupted when Selma approaches Auron, having overheard their conversation about Albert. She remarks that he was someone the Night Sky Silver Rabbits could always rely on, and that his absence has left the organization desperate for someone equally competent. Auron replies calmly that he hopes the organization finds what it is searching for. Selma, seeing through his evasiveness, tells him to stop playing dumb and asks directly what he thinks about permanently joining the Night Sky Silver Rabbits. Auron remains firm, reiterating that he has no intention of joining any organization. He adds that the Night Sky Silver Rabbits do not need a second enchanter, especially when they already have the best enchanter on the continent in Selma herself. Though disappointed by his answer, Selma respects his decision and ultimately comes to terms with it. All of the rookies and senior members of the Night Sky Silver Rabbits assemble as Selma steps forward to address them. She delivers a rousing speech outlining the day's objectives, rallying the group and reinforcing their resolve before the dungeon raid begins. To ensure wider coverage of the dungeon, the organization divides into multiple teams, each consisting of 6 to 10 members. Auron's team, however, is assigned only 4 people, himself included. This immediately unsettles Sophia, who voices concern that such a small group could be dangerously exposed. Logan, on the other hand, interprets it as a sign of confidence in their abilities, suggesting that the organization trusts these 3 rookies more than the rest. Auron acknowledges that Logan may not be entirely wrong, but he explains that the real reason lies in dungeon strategy. Splitting into smaller units allows for more efficient exploration, and once teams regroup, they can share the intelligence they have gathered. He adds that this ability to divide and reconverge is precisely why large organizations like the Night Sky Silver Rabbits hold a decisive advantage over newer, smaller parties. Caroline then remarks that since Orin has already ventured into the lower floors, he must possess extensive knowledge of the dungeon. The others grow visibly excited and bombard him with questions about what lies below. The onslaught becomes so overwhelming that Orin eventually has to stop them, unable to answer everything at once. As they descend deeper into dungeon, an unsettling realization sets in. The area is eerily empty. Orin's earlier sense of unease resurfaces, stronger than before. He reasons that the monsters that normally inhabit these floors seem to be avoiding the area, as if frightened by something far more dangerous. While they discuss this possibility, a monster suddenly emerges. Judging it to be weak, Caroline charges forward, eager to end both the threat and her growing boredom. Orin attempts to stop her, immediately recognizing that the monster is far stronger than it appears. His warning comes too late. Forced to intervene, he casts a debuff enchantment to slow the creature down, creating an opening that allows Caroline to finish it off. Once the danger has passed, Orin sternly reprimands her, reminding her that a defender is meant to be the core of the team. If that core becomes reckless, the entire formation collapses. Caroline apologizes and Orin accepts, choosing instead to turn the moment into a lesson. He introduces her to the concept of active defense, explaining that it involves closely reading an opponent's movements before they attack. For a dodge-based offender like Caroline, mastering this technique could be invaluable. Logan is clearly impressed and immediately asks if Orin can offer him advice as well. Elsewhere, the hero's party arrives at the guild where all major dungeon raiding organizations are registered. Luna declares that they must meet the guild master at once, insisting that his current engagements are irrelevant. When they finally stand before him, Oliver is too ashamed to speak, burdened by guilt over his failure. Luna takes responsibility for explaining the situation, admitting that their mistake allowed the Black Dragon, normally confined to floor 92, to roam the upper levels of the dungeon. Its current location is unknown. Given the danger, Luna demands immediate mass teleportation of all dungeon raiders, warning that every life inside the dungeon is at risk. One of the Guildmaster's advisors cautions against such a drastic measure, noting the enormous mana cost and suggesting an emergency meeting instead. Luna firmly rejects the idea, arguing that there is no time for deliberation. Back in the dungeon, Logan presses Orin for guidance on debuff magic. Orin advises him to focus on mastering standard enchantments first, explaining that debuffs require extensive knowledge. Each monster possesses different resistances, and effective debuffing depends on understanding exactly which type of magic a target is vulnerable to. He adds that as monsters grow stronger, the effectiveness of debuffs diminishes significantly. As an alternative, Orin demonstrates how enchantments can be used to set traps, emphasizing that securing their rear allows a team to advance far more confidently. He also offers Sophia advice, telling her that rather than relying on a single powerful spell, she should learn to cast multiple spells simultaneously. This would allow her to maintain constant pressure instead of becoming a liability while charging a high-level attack. Meanwhile, the Guild Master and the Inner Council begin gathering mana to initiate a forced teleportation of all raiders in the southern dungeon. During the process, it becomes clear that the Council places full blame on Oliver and intends to eliminate the Black Dragon themselves once everyone is evacuated. Though hesitant, Luna ultimately agrees and assures them that her party will take responsibility for slaying the dragon. Back inside the dungeon, the Night Sky Silver Rabbits regroup. They have not yet encountered the Black Dragon, but they prepare to face the final boss of the day on dungeon level 51. The rookies are instructed to stand aside and observe, as only Orin, Selma, and the veteran members will participate in the battle, turning it into a live lesson for future encounters. Orin leads the charge. Using his keen analytical insight, he targets the monster's quadriceps, crippling its ability to advance. When it attempts to retreat, he deploys trap magic to cut off its escape route. This allows Selma and the other veterans to attack relentlessly, bringing the creature down with ruthless efficiency. Moments later, another enemy emerges, a massive crab-like monster. Once again, Orin moves first, activating a powerful enchantment known as Impact, which amplifies his attack strength more than 100-fold for a brief instant. The strike pierces straight to the monster's claws, rendering it incapable of fighting back. Orin reflects briefly that the spell is essentially a loophole he discovered while experimenting with ways to strengthen his otherwise weak magic. The rest of the team finishes the creature without difficulty. Elsewhere, the hero's party marches toward the southern dungeon under direct orders from the Guild Master, preparing for the confrontation with the Black Dragon. Luna admits that their only real chance of victory lies in convincing Orin to join them, despite his exile and the humiliation he once suffered at their hands. In the end, the fate of everyone now hinges on Orin and the choice he is yet to make. The 6th episode opened with Selma announcing to the entire group that their 3-day expedition to level 51 of the Southern Dungeon had finally come to an end. She reported that everyone, from the rookies to the senior guild members, had performed flawlessly, allowing them to reach such a dangerous depth without a single casualty. It was a remarkable achievement for the veterans and an invaluable learning experience for the newcomers. The party's morale was high, and excitement could be seen on every face. Amid the celebration, Oren reflected quietly. He believed his time with the Night Sky Silver Rabbits was nearing its end. The clan would continue to thrive without him, and he felt it was finally time to pursue his personal goal of becoming a fully self-sufficient warrior, one capable of fighting as both an attacker and an enchanter. He also felt a wave of relief wash over him, realizing that the ominous feeling he'd been carrying was nothing more than paranoia. That sense of calm shattered in an instant. Without warning, a portal opened before the group, and the Black Dragon emerged. The overwhelming pressure radiating from his presence caused even the strongest warriors, Selma included, to tremble. A single question echoed silently through everyone's mind. How could the Black Dragon have appeared on this dungeon level? Selma felt the crushing weight of leadership settle upon her, yet fear left her momentarily frozen. Although Oren had faced the Black Dragon before, he too was shaken. Still, unlike the others, he managed to steady his thoughts and formulate a plan. He reasoned that since the true boss of the dungeon level had already been defeated, escape was possible. His idea was to run past the dragon and use the crystal to teleport everyone outside the dungeon. However, the flaw in his plan became immediately apparent. Countless rookies stood behind him, fighters who had no hope of keeping pace with him. Any attempt at escape would demand unacceptable sacrifices. To make matters worse, Selma herself was still struggling to move under the dragon's oppressive aura. Realizing this, Oren resolved that it was his responsibility to protect everyone in that moment. Gathering his resolve, he took command and instructed Selma to cover him as he charged toward the dragon. Responding at once, Selma ordered the defenders to form the front line, while an enchanter erected a massive magical wall to shield the rookies from the dragon's incoming attack. The barrier, however, was clearly insufficient. Noticing its weakness, Oren reinforced it using his magic, Impact, strengthening the wall just enough to withstand the Black Dragon's blast. Seizing an opening, he counterattacked, rushing straight toward the dragon's neck. He amplified his strike by over 100-fold with his enchantment, unleashing a devastating blow. For a brief moment, everyone believed it might be enough. When the dust settled, that hope was crushed. The dragon emerged completely unscathed. Even in the face of such despair, Oren calmly told the companions not to lose hope, insisting that he still had a plan. With that, he charged once more at the Black Dragon, deliberately drawing its attention away from the rookies, fully aware that they stood no chance against such a monstrous foe. Selma watched in horror, fearing she was about to lose yet another friend to the dragon, having already lost a valued guild member Albert to it in the past. Meanwhile, Oren skillfully invoked a rare spell known as Deflection, redirecting one of the dragon's own attacks back at it. Logan could not hide his astonishment. He realized he had never seen such magic before. Not even Selma was capable of performing it. Yet, despite being struck by its own power, the Black Dragon emerged once again without a single wound, proving that the battle was far from over. Oren realized that defeating the Black Dragon without taking extreme risks was impossible. He acknowledged that he could barely keep pace with the creature unless he was willing to push himself far, beyond his limits. To stand even a chance against it, he decided to rely on one of his original techniques. Fully aware that doing so would place an enormous strain on his body, he activated high-level enchantment magic, boosting all of his stats at once. Selma immediately took notice. She recognized the spell as an advanced technique that enhanced every physical and magical attribute simultaneously, one that required exceptional precision and control to execute. Yet she also understood its critical limitation. As an enchanter, Oren should only have been able to reinforce each stat twice. What he did next defied all logic. Oren cast the same enhancement spell 4 additional times, stacking it until his stats were amplified 5-fold. Selma could hardly believe her eyes. Under normal rules, recasting a spell merely refreshed its duration rather than increasing its potency. And yet, there was no denying the result. Oren's power had multiplied dramatically. Even Selma, widely regarded as the greatest enchanter on the continent, had never witnessed anything like it. With his enhanced abilities, Oren resumed his assault on the Black Dragon. He moved with such evasive speed that the creature struggled to track him. When it nearly struck him midair with a sweeping tail attack, Oren suddenly stepped onto an invisible foothold, sharply changing direction to evade the blow. This maneuver was not magic, but a unique innate ability he had possessed since birth. Spotting an opening, Oren lunged forward and struck with his sword, combining his 5-fold enhanced stats with multiple enchantments, impact, sharpness up, and durability up. The blow finally landed with force, cracking the dragon's armor for the first time. Though the creature was far from defeated, the damage was undeniable. Selma watched in stunned disbelief. A human was standing alone against the black dragon, and not merely surviving, but actively pressing the advantage. She quickly realized that joining the fight would only hinder Orin. For now, the best course of action was to hold back and ensure the safety of the rookies and the remaining guild members. The tide soon shifted. The black dragon roared as dark, ominous energy engulfed its body. It unleashed a relentless barrage of lightning bolts toward Orin. Although he evaded most of them with expert precision, one attack eventually struck true, knocking him out of the air and slamming him to the ground. As the battle reached its peak, the scene shifted to Orin's past. He remembered a time when Oliver had still been his childhood friend, back when the two of them ran freely and trained together without a care in the world. One day, after returning from training outside their village, they discovered a nightmare waiting for them. Their home had been overrun by a bandit horde, and countless villagers had been slaughtered. Still children, Orin and Oliver were forced to bury the dead themselves. It was in that moment that Orin had sworn never to be weak again. He had vowed to grow strong enough to protect the people he loved. The memory faded, and the scene returned to the present. Facing the black dragon once more, Orin recalled that vow with renewed determination. He also thought of his former teammates. Though they had been far from exceptional, each of them had served a purpose. Taking on all those roles alone would be difficult, but he refused to let that burden slow him down. More than anything, he wanted to become truly self-sufficient. With renewed focus, Orin expertly dodged the dragon's lightning attacks and retaliated with fire bullet. Moments later, he activated trap magic, unleashing a barrage of flames through his technique known as raise and repeat. Finally, in a decisive move, Orin invoked Divine Flash, a technique Oliver was known for. Unlike Oliver's brilliant yellow version, Orin's Divine Flash was pitch black. He further amplified it with impact, forcing the attack through the dragon's counterstrike and landing a clean hit. At the very last moment, however, the black dragon interposed its tail. Instead of severing its neck, the attack cleaved to the tail instead, tearing it from the dragon's body. Though the battle was not yet over, the outcome had been irrevocably changed. Orin realized he was fighting on his last reserves of strength. With his body failing and no room left for hesitation, he made a desperate gamble. For the first time, he combined Thunder Shock with Impact. The resulting strike slammed into the black dragon midair, forcing it to crash to the ground. Even then, the creature refused to die. The ferocity of the battle had reached its limit. Under the strain of repeated high-output attacks, Orin's sword finally shattered from the sheer intensity of the clash. Without hesitation, he released the broken weapon and prepared the final trump card he had been holding in reserve. He invoked Destruction. An overwhelming mass of mana converged, shaping itself into an enormous blade. Even without any external amplification such as Impact, the spell stood among the highest tiers of S-rank magic. Gripping the mana-forged sword, Orin charged straight toward the dragon. The black dragon retaliated by unleashing a relentless storm of lightning. Despite the attacks actively homing in on him, Orin skillfully employed deflection, redirecting each strike and forcing them off course. Pressing forward through the chaos, he waited for the slightest opening. When it appeared, Orin struck. He swung the destruction blade and layered it with impact and weight increase, amplifying the blow to its absolute limit. The attack cleaved to the dragon's defenses, and at last, the black dragon was slain. As the creature fell, the overwhelming pressure dissipated. Relief swept through the battlefield, and surviving adventurers rushed toward Orin, scarcely believing that the nightmare had finally come to an end. The 7th episode begins with Luna and the hero's party rushing straight to the dungeon, hoping to reach the black dragon and defeat it as instructed by the High Council. However, just before reaching the dungeon, they all witness teleportation magic taking place, only to discover that the black dragon has been teleported outside. The hero's party immediately takes guard in hopes of confronting it, but they soon realize that the dragon has already been defeated. None of them can bring themselves to believe that the dragon was slain by someone else, as they have always considered themselves the strongest of the strong. Luna then notices that several others have also been teleported behind the black dragon, including Orin and all the rookies he has been working with. She is the first to realize that Orin is badly damaged, as if he has been in a life-and-death battle. However, the remaining people appear completely fine, as though they have just returned from a relaxing vacation at the beach. This leads to only one conclusion. Orin has taken on the black dragon alone and has actually won. The boss that no one has been able to defeat and that has claimed the lives of countless adventurers has been single-handedly defeated by Orin. Luna rushes toward him to heal him, but Orin declines the offer, seemingly implying that he no longer needs the help of a party that has betrayed his trust. Rejecting the offer, he simply tells Luna to take care of what remains of the black dragon. He then walks away from the site, and Derek attempts to stop him, demanding an explanation as to how someone so weak could defeat the black dragon. Luna, however, stops Derek, telling him that he has already done enough to offend Orin. This wounds Derek's pride, and the already insecure warrior launches himself straight toward Luna. Unfortunately for him, Luna is far more powerful. She casts a spell at Derek that immediately restricts his movement, effectively ending the fight before it can even begin. Oliver then intervenes, urging him to break it up, admitting that he himself still cannot bring himself to believe just how powerful Oren truly is. Later that night, Sophia has to write a report on what she has learned from Oren during the 3-day expedition. She is described as blushing at the idea of writing the report because it is nearly entirely about Oren himself. It is noted that he has taught her how to be courageous when confronted with fear, how to cast her first high-level spell, and that he has also fought very effectively. Despite needing to write, she has not written a single word yet and is instead simply thinking about Oren and blushing. Not long after, her elder sister Selma comes into the room, as she shares the same room with Sophia, and collapses onto the bed. The day is said to have taken its toll on her, since they had to defeat the Black Dragon, and she also had a great deal of work afterward following the entire fiasco. Sophia tells her that even if she is feeling down, she should at least take a shower before going to bed, insisting that hygiene should always remain a top priority. This does little to convince the burnt-out Selma, who responds that she will take a shower tomorrow. Sophia then says she is even willing to join her in the bath if that is what it takes to convince her. After a bit more persuading, they both end up in a warm bath, where Selma finally expresses what has been troubling her. Selma tells her little sister Sophia that witnessing Oren take on the Black Dragon has been unlike anything she has ever seen before. She states that he is truly a marvel of a man. Yet the experience is also depressing for her because the things he performed are at such a high level that she cannot even begin to grasp them. It has only made her realize what she sees as her own incompetence. She is described as not being the kind of woman who gets jealous like other petty enchanters. However, as someone regarded as one of the strongest enchanters on the continent, she feels it is her moral duty to at least keep up with someone like Oren. Still, she is fully aware that a huge gap now exists between them. Sophia then tells her that she has been able to understand the things Oren did while fighting the Black Dragon. This surprises Selma, who becomes curious about what Sophia has learned from him. Sophia proceeds to explain all the basic things that Oren executed with perfection during the battle. Selma realizes that although Sophia may not have grasped the deeper level of mastery Selma herself was hoping to understand, she has perfectly understood what she was meant to at her own level. Selma then realizes that her little sister is nothing short of a genius, which makes her feel even more depressed about herself. Sophia responds by hugging her elder sister and reminding her that she is the person Sophia respects the most, insisting that Selma is definitely more impressive than she believes. These words are said to relieve the burnout and depress Selma more than anything else in the world could. The next day, Oren wakes up in excruciating pain from his last battle, as he has been very badly beaten up, and has also used a huge number of spells in a single fight, something he has never done before. It is described that he has to constantly use pain relief enchantments to endure it all. Nevertheless, he cannot stay in bed forever, so he gets up, only to be greeted by Selma first thing in the morning. They have breakfast together, during which Selma tells him that her higher-ups want to meet with him. Since Oren does not have much to do after the 3-day expedition, he decides to go with her and meets her superior. The man cuts straight to the chase and asks Oren if he wants to join their clan, the Night Sky Silver Rabbits. He explains that Oren will not only be joining them, but will also become a lieutenant of their strongest party. Oren reflects that most people would immediately accept such an offer, but his fear of betrayal by someone close to him makes him decide to take extra time before reaching a decision. The man also informs him that the Adventurers Guild wants to see him. After leaving the Night Sky Silver Rabbit's den, Oren heads straight to the old man's shop, the same place where he previously received valuable advice. He tells the old man that he has received a new job offer, but feels reluctant to accept it because he fears being used and then discarded. The old man advises him that it is natural to be afraid, and that using harsh terms like used will only further hinder his decision-making. He explains that heartbreaks are part of personal growth, and that if Oren allows fear to dictate his decisions, he will never truly evolve. This advice is said to kindle a new sense of clarity within Oren, making him more certain about what he wants. Later, he goes to the Adventurers Guild as requested, only to find that, along with the High Council, the Heroes Party is also present. The leader of the Adventurers Guild states that, according to what is heard, the Black Dragon was slain entirely by Oren alone, without anyone else's help. However, the Heroes Party disputes this statement. Despite having caused trouble earlier, they claim that they had already weakened the Black Dragon in their prior fight, which supposedly allowed Oren to land a final blow. Oren does not even bother responding to what he considers absurd claims. Instead, he makes it clear that what he truly cannot tolerate is what he sees as Oliver's utter carelessness as a leader. He points out that after hiring a new recruit, they went straight to dungeon level 92, where the Black Dragon resides. Oliver counters by arguing that they had a much stronger enchanter with them, and that an enchanter's role is simply to stay back and provide buffs to the team. Oren disagrees and states in front of everyone that an enchanter must constantly track how long each buff lasts on every individual, while also reading the flow of battle. He questions how such responsibilities could possibly be considered easy. This only angers Oliver further, as he realizes that he is in the wrong, but finds himself unable to admit it, since doing so would result in even greater humiliation in front of the council. Meanwhile, Logan, Sophia, and Caroline find Selma and ask her where Oren lives. It is explained that they want to convince him to join the Night Sky Silver Rabbits, as they have learned a lot from him during the 3-day expedition. They believe that if Oren becomes a permanent member of their clan, he will likely teach them even more things. They are described as being very excited at the thought of seeing Oren every day. Selma does not reveal Oren's home address, but she tells him that he is currently at the Adventurers Guild, and that, if they are fast enough, they might catch him before he leaves. The three of them rush off with childlike enthusiasm, and Selma cannot help but smile as she watches him run after Oren. Meanwhile, Oren has finally left the guild and is about to head home. He notices the three of them running toward him and immediately runs in the opposite direction. Eventually, he loses them and finds himself once again at the old man's shop. The old man asks Oren why he is so eager to avoid them, knowing that they seem to genuinely look up to him as a mentor. Oren explains that he has decided he does not want to join any party for the time being, and that he knows those three want him to join the Night Sky Silver Rabbits. The old man offers further wisdom, suggesting that although Oren may be afraid, what he truly wants is a place where he belongs. This gives Oren some clarity, though he still remains uncertain about his decision. Later that night, he meets Sophia, who talks to him about the beauty of the moon before finally addressing the real issue and asking him to join her clan. In response, Oren asks a single question: what the Night Sky Silver Rabbits mean to her. She replies that they are the reason she can smile every day, explaining that the clan is more than just an organization to her. It is a place where she belongs. This answer resonates with Oren in exactly the right way, and for the first time he begins to see a clan as a potential home rather than merely another guild. The next day, he goes to the Night Sky Silver Rabbits headquarters and makes it clear that he will be joining them. Selma enters a room and gives Oren his new uniform. He is then described as ready to embark on a new journey with stronger resolve than ever before, alongside new friends whom he believes will stand by his side no matter what.